Hey everybody, this is Chad, and I'm going to show you how to use a MIDI device, in this case the Morningstar MC6 Pro, to control effects using the assign function on the Roland BOSS RC-600. Now, I really love the RC-600. It's extremely powerful and you can program the pedals to do basically anything. And I've reprogrammed the pedals so that they don't really match the labels out of the box, and I think a lot of people do the same thing. It's too deep to discuss here, but I'll put a link to the instructions in the description. So if you want to do that, you can certainly do that. So after digging into the RC-600 a lot over the past several weeks, I thought it would be really nice to have an external MIDI device control the effects without switching what are called pedal modes. And this is like, you can basically toggle so that all the buttons on the RC-600, the pedals, can have different functions in basically 3 modes. But I thought it would be nice to have an internal box, or an external box, I'm sorry, where I could use all of the effects on the RC-600 without switching pedal modes, and kind of use the RC-600 mostly for other functions. So with the assign capability, you can do that really easily. So I chose the MC6 Pro in part because of the screen, which you can see here on the left, which allows you to label each pedal or each button however you want. Whereas you can see on the right, when I label things on the RC-600, I'm using tape. So I like the screen, and you'll see some of the things I do with it in just a moment. So I'm gonna walk you through the rest of the process and show you how to do this. So first, a word on connections. From what I'm about to show you, I have a MIDI cable connecting the MIDI out on the MC6 Pro to the MIDI in on the RC600. I also have a USB cable connecting the device port on the MC6 Pro to a Mac running the latest OS. And this is so I can use the Morningstar Editor to configure the MC6 Pro. It doesn't have to be a Mac because it runs in a browser basically. So you don't, as long as you have a pretty up-to-date computer. But I dropped a link to the manual for the MC6 Pro in the description. All of this stuff has to be connected correctly for this to work. So if you have any trouble, always check cables. Now, I also have a Telecaster plugged into input 1 on the RC600, and the main output from the RC600 goes into a small PA I have, but you may have a different audio source, a different instrument hooked in, and maybe you're using headphones instead of a PA. So the input and the output for the sound may be different in your setup. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that you understand your MIDI setup. So to get to MIDI, you press Menu, you press it twice, and you'll see MIDI here on the right, and you kind of click here by pressing down, and you'll see the channel on the far left, the 2, indicates the MIDI channel that you're going to use or listen to. I think of it as kind of like a listener to whatever MIDI signals come out of the Morningstar. Don't worry about the other settings. I think this is all you need to know for now. MIDI channel 2. So I'm just going to go back to the main screen. So I actually have 4 effects set up now, but for this example, I'm going to show you how to send a CC MIDI message from the MC6 Pro to the RC600 and have it toggle the G to B effect, which is guitar to bass. This is an input effect, meaning it affects the input signal. It's not applied after to the track. So what this effect does is it drops a guitar signal an octave. So basically, you have a bass with your guitar. And in a looper environment, that's really great because you can lay down a bass line, switch the effect off, and then play regular guitar on top of it. So first, I have to make sure that I have the G to B effect set up. Note that the RC600 has the concept of banks of input effects, which are 4 independent inputs, or I'm sorry, 4 independent banks. So how do you get to those? You press loop, and then page over to the right. You'll see input and track effects. We're gonna check the input effect. You'll see in the very small print up here, input FX bank A. B I have set up as G to B, so I'm going to press that, and you can see G to B. In this case, let's see, I have it on toggle, so I basically can turn it off. I have it only working with instrument 1, the Telecaster I plugged in. And let's see, the balance I have at 100, meaning I'm not mixing the regular signal, and the bass I'm giving it 100% bass. So there's so many effects, you can configure them in a million different ways. But effect B in bank A, and it says FX A-B bank, then effect is set up. You can see, like, I'll just show you some of the others. A I have set up as a harmony effect. C I have as a delay, and D is a distortion effect. But again, I'll show you B. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how to set up the assign. And to get to assigns, you press menu twice, assign. And I have some other stuff set up. So the one I set up here is assign number 10. And when you look at the screen for assign number 10, you'll see, and I set this up in advance, MIDI CC number 2. So I'm sending a CC message, or I'm listening for a CC message from the external MIDI device, which is the Morningstar, a message with a value of number 2. And then that's going to turn the effect AB, that's bank A, effect B, off and on. So that assign number 10 is set up, and you'll notice that it's on. You can let me go back. You can turn it off and on. I want to make sure that you have it on. And now I have the assign. So now I'm going to show you on the Morningstar Editor how to send a CC message on channel 2. Again, we have MIDI set up to receive on channel 2. And the number of the effect, the value, is also going to be number 2. But it could be 3, 4, 5, 6, anything else, as long as it goes over MIDI 2 and the assign is set up to receive that. Now you're seeing the Morningstar Editor. This is running on my Mac, but again, it'll run on any computer that has a modern browser. I put a link to the manual in the description. So I just wanted to show you, and this is really the most important part, how I got G to B working. Now that I have everything set up correctly on the RC-600, I gave it a name and short name. There's also a toggle name, which you will notice when I press the button, it will turn on. But the real action is happening down here. Again, remember we set the MIDI channel for the RC-600 to 2. So MIDI channel 2 on both of these. And then the assign that we set up, we sent a CC number 2. And so what I'm doing here is I'm sending with one press of the button. That's just stepping on the button just like you do on any kind of guitar pedal. I'm going to send simultaneous CC value of 0 and CC value of 127. Now, this doesn't make any logical sense to me at all. I found this buried on a message board. The Roland documentation is really kind of non-existent on this point, but believe me, if you want to toggle effects, then sending a simultaneous value of 0 and 127, which you might recall was in the configuration, those numbers were in the configuration on the assign, that absolutely works. And so if you do this as I've laid it out here, and you want to have toggle mode on, and then you save the preset, click here, you can see it saving, then this will absolutely, if you have everything hooked up correctly, the assign set up and turned on, the effects on, this will absolutely toggle your effect. Okay, now it's all set up, and just listen for the sound, like that's a regular guitar. Okay, I muted it. Now you can see G to B is on. And that's how you do it. Just for fun, I'll show you other ones that I set up as well. That's distortion, without distortion. And that's probably enough for this demo, but thanks for watching. This is my first video. So please let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope that this saves all of you watching this the many hours of frustration that I had before I got this set up.